I think Squad is one of the most replayable games out there. Every match you can approach something a little different, maybe pick a different kit or role, be an infantry squad leader one match, command a tank the next. Whatever you want to do, you can usually do it, and although it's not truly a sandbox, it's still sandboxy. But a big complaint that Squad gets from other FPS and milsim fans is that it doesn't really have that large of an arsenal that you want in a game that has all these militaries. The US Army, for example, only has a few vehicles, the Stryker, Bradley, and Abrams. There are no attack helicopters, and you can't really even do advanced things like toss on some night vision and do night attacks. There are day-only maps, and although you do have some kind of dusk or dawn features in game, you still don't have night vision, so it just becomes a very hard to play because you can't see anything map. There's no thermals on vehicles, there's no surface-to-air weapons. It is a game that I absolutely love, but a lot of people after now 6-7 years want a little bit more features and variety when it comes to gaming. Enter Steel Division. Steel Division is a complete overhaul mod for Squad that introduces night vision, variable zooms on optics, thermals, fast ropes for helicopters, and even a C-130 call-in for commanders. Plus plenty of new weapons, vehicles, and deployables. Released on October 15th, it's a Squad that many of us have wanted to play for a very long time, and has been in the works for well over a year. With 12 playable maps and 91 custom layers, not only will the new content keep you busy, but you probably won't get bored of the maps either since there's plenty to choose from. Oh, and did I mention that there are 9 new playable factions, including the Chinese People's Liberation Army and the Israeli Defense Force? With all these new factions, the modders have also done an insane amount of work with weapon models, vehicle models, and including things like lights where you can actually swap on night vision, turn on headlights on vehicles, and even pop on your thermals on and off. Now, in saying that, we all know how janky some Squad mods can be. So how well does this actually work? Well, first off, the night vision is done surprisingly well. It's not overly green like you see in a lot of games, and it does give you plenty of darkness while still just improving the visibility. It's also amazing to see tracers and rounds deflect off and fly into the air, and it just makes for an overall immersive nighttime experience. I also really like how the devs give you the option to use night vision or not. And this toggle by pressing 0 really comes in handy since you can get some dawn and dusk maps as well, like in the base game Squad, but it makes night vision now a choice for good combat in the shadows. But if you do turn around and look out to the horizon, you'll just get blinded. So you really need to make sure what you want to use when you're engaging in firefights. I think this makes for some unique combat and maneuvering, and it really counters the insta-kills you might get if you were simply to have straight up regular night vision on a dark night sky. The weapons themselves are great, and although every once in a while you might get one that doesn't have the best sound, or maybe the reload animation doesn't quite work right, I really didn't have that many complaints at all. And what I absolutely love about this mod is something I didn't even think I was going to see, and that is the weapon rack. Instead of Jensen's range, we have Johnson's range, the training range where you can test out everything, and we now have a brand spanking new weapon rack, which is such a fantastic idea. When you go into this warehouse, there's an actual range with weapons, you can interact with them, and it enters your primary slot. It's a fantastic idea. I don't know why Steel Division was the first one to come up with it, but I love it. You finally don't have to keep swapping maps or loadouts to try and find a weapon to test, and you can simply pick it off the wall, reload your ammo, and off you go. You can even do this with the rangefinders and test them out too, and you can just press left click and it will give you the actual distance in meters near the center of your screen. What's also awesome is that there is something called a death range, which okay. All right. So it's actually a death range, lives up to its name. It's supposed to be like this AI range. In Jensen's range, you have a killed box or killed house where you just go around and can shoot AI. Now, you're supposed to go to this range and test out all these new weapons and shoot AI and actually have some kind of maneuvering in combat. But the AI is absolutely bonkers. They laser you, and when you activate it, it makes the whole area in front of this entrance almost unplayable. I tried a few different ways to get in, but I would just get insta-killed. And there's just 10 to 12 infantry absolutely staring at you, not including the machine gun that is just dialed right in. So I, being a man of honor, jumped into the Apache and did a gun run. And then I swapped to the gunner seat, and apparently the AI can't get killed by vehicles. So a lot of good ideas here, but I think this is just another case of problems with the Squad SDK, which is the thing you use to modify the game. The SDK for Squad is notoriously hard to use, complicated, convoluted, and causes a lot of things to just break. So compared to something like Arma, as you can see here, you don't really get the effect that the modder wanted to get. So I like the idea. I'm not going to give them any negative marks for the problems I'm seeing here, but I do think it will be great if it can be tweaked so that you're not being literally camped by machine guns and snipers right when you walk in. And having the AI also get killed by vehicles as well would also be a really cool thing. But once again, can't fault them for trying. I'm sure this will get fixed, and it will be super fun to play by yourself, or if this is on a live server, you can get a bunch of buddies and actually try to do the whole death range by your just small little tactical group. Also, as an aside, I was wandering around the range and testing things, and all of a sudden I heard some smoking and cracking, and I see a bunch of damaged vehicles. The entire garage was just pretty much up in smoke. Now, if you don't know what's going on, Squad has a mechanic where if you leave a vehicle abandoned, in about 20 minutes it'll start to take damage and be destroyed as a way to help reclaim assets. Like if you lost a Logi and the enemy blew out the tires, it's way back in enemy territory. Well, it kind of sucks for your team that you'll never get that asset back. So now after 20 minutes, you'll lose the 5 tickets when it blows up, but you'll finally get it spawning in. So I guess this mechanic wasn't turned off for all the vehicles on the range, and here you go. All the stuff I wanted to test just simply burnt to a crisp. I will say this is an incredibly easy fix, but it was just too funny not to show. Now, one major feature request in Squad has been thermals for tanks and IFVs, and while some are restricted to night vision, like this mobile gun system, we do now get thermals on a select few vehicles. Just like you toggle night vision, you can press O and flip on your thermals, making targets white hot. There is no fire indicator, however, and I believe the way this is made within the mod, it essentially highlights the model itself, not the actual heat signature. So although you won't see things like the cook-off fire when a tank does explode, I don't really think that matters. Of course, I would love to see it, but the thermals work really good, and this is absolutely amazing for tank crews. Now, as fun as it is playing around the training range, how does this shape up in a real game? Now, right now, my community, the Potato Fields, is running a Steel Division only server. So if you would like to jump in a game, try this out for yourself and play the mod, please join the server. Just type in Potato, make sure you have the show modded servers ticked on in your filters, and join. Now, when I loaded in, I thought maybe I had some graphics settings wrong since I was getting a lot of very blobby textures, and this problem is a common issue for people who have lower end GPUs that try to run Squad but simply aren't powerful enough. Now, I'm talking GPUs with like 2 gig VRAM, very old GPUs. But everyone else was complaining about this too, and I have a 2070 Super, so I shouldn't have any problems at all. Now, I went into a modded server, still had an issue, went into an unmodded vanilla server, didn't have an issue. As you can see in the previous few minutes here, I haven't had any issues in the offline range, so there was obviously something wrong with Steel Division when it was added on a real server. Now, I did try to select uncapped texture pool size to see if that worked, and it did. As you can see now, the game looks like Squad, but unfortunately that causes a host of other issues, including massive frame drops. I went from my usual 80 or 90 FPS down to 20 or 30, so I turned it back off and just went with the blobby textures. Hopefully there will be some performance fixes soon, but if I'm being honest, the textures didn't really bother me too much apart from not being able to tell who was who. You can still play and enjoy the game, and as much as I want the game to look good, I more just wanted to check out the new weapons, check out the new vehicles, and play around with the optics, so I think that actually was worth it. Overall, I had some fun as infantry. I also flew around a bit, watched people play around with the vehicles, see how they were interacting with the map, and I will say Steel Division is an incredibly refreshing way to play Squad. Getting to actually see something like a Merkava roll out or use a QBZ is an absolute blast. And finally being able to use fast ropes from the helicopters, even though the textures were a little blobby, was awesome. I do think Steel Division is a little rough around the edges, but nothing that actually impeded me from enjoying myself. So if you do want to experience a little bit of the Arma type variety when it comes to weapons, optics, and night vision, but you want to keep that same Squad universe type of gameplay that we all love, definitely download Steel Division. I've linked the Steam page down below so you can download it there, or simply join a server like the Potato Field Steel Division that has it installed, and you'll be able to download straight from the Squad server browser. But What do you guys think? Is it a promising mod? Is it worth some of these buggy textures? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.